Hi there, this is Pranav from DBS Diary. Good morning, afternoon, evening, depending on the geographic location. How are you doing today? So today we are going to cover the answers for the question that we covered last time, which is complex interview question for Sybase replication server. So let's start. So first of all, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for liking and putting your comments. And I would also request you to subscribe to my channel. And these answers I will be preparing this in the form of PDF, and I'm recording the video. You can walk through the video and you can understand. But if you want that to be in the document format, I am preparing that PDF and it's almost ready. So that will be at a very nominal price, and I need your support. So I will be putting this one, and also we have some other PDF which is there for sale, and you can buy that, and you can let me know in case you have any feedback for them, and I can incorporate your comments, right? So let's start. Complex interview questions with answer for Sybase replication DBA. So as I mentioned last time, so if you can answer all these questions, okay, which means you can clear any interview for Sybase replication, that is for sure, right? So let's start. So first question is, how many types of Sybase replication actually exist? So here you need to talk about two types first, like majority of the things. So homogeneous and heterogeneous. So homogeneous means Sybase to Sybase, right? So you have Sybase ASC as a primary, and you can have Sybase IQ also as secondary, or you have no reporting server, or you have some other server like DR server. So all that thing you can cover in the homogeneous. And heterogeneous, like it could be Sybase to SQL Server, or Sybase to Oracle, or Sybase to DB2, anything it could be there, and it would be vice versa. So anything from MS SQL to Sybase, or from Oracle to Sybase. So all that thing can be covered in the heterogeneous. Now like when we come to homogeneous, so when we have Sybase replication, so in that you will be you can define or you can explain about three types. So first is warm standby, right? So warm standby is nothing but one-to-one mapping. So this is mainly used in the you have production server, and then you have DR server. So you have one-to-one mapping, and you can do active switch when there is failover, right? In case of any issue or anything, you can do active switch. Then you have MSA. So as name suggests, like multi-site availability. So which means you will have one primary and you can have multiple secondary server, right? So in case of like warm standby, you will have logical connection, whereas in case of MSA, you will have replication definition and subscription, right? So definition will be there, which will be creating connection from the like primary site to the replication server, and then subscription will be helping you. First you create the connection from replication to secondary server, and then you will have subscription creation, right? So this is your like MSA. So all this thing you can find out using command from RSST rs_help db rep. Okay, this will give you replication definition, and then you can do rs_help db sub, which will give you definition of subscription, right? Then you can have table level replication. So in case of MSA, the replication will happen at database level, whereas in case of table level replication will happen at the data of table level, not at the table definition level. So you have to understand this. In case there is any change in the table definition, you need to do that manually on the source and on the target side, right? You also have function level replication. So same thing applies there. So you have to define the, you can find out all this detail, rs_help rep and rs_help sub, right? So help db rep for the MSA replication definition for the database, and for the table level rs_help rep, and same thing you can do for the function level or for the stored procedure level, right? So all these things you can explain. So these are the major types. I have covered all these things in my answer sheet, which I prepared in the form of PDF, as I said. Now, how do you find latency between primary and secondary server? So there are different methods to check. So let's see. So first thing, you can go to secondary server and you can use rs_last commit table to find out the source commit time and at the target commit time. This is one way. Then second thing, you can check on the replication server side. So in that you can check admin who sqm. So that will give you details, right? You can also connect to RSST. RSST you can check details from the RS segments. So select q underscore number comma q type comma count star from RS underscore segments, and then you can do group by these two columns. So this will give you how much data is there in the queue. This will not give you latency in terms of time. However, it will give you how many MBs are there in the queue. So based on network latency, network speed, you can figure out how much time it will take for you to get the latency sorted out, right? So these things are the different methods to check. And in case there is open transaction, you can find the open or state of transaction using admin who sqt. That will give you state of transaction. So if it is open, then you can go to primary and you can find out from syslogs hold whether the transaction is still open. If it is open from how long, right? So all these things are there and you can find out latency by using all these methods. I have given again, as I mentioned, all of them in my PDF. Now, what is the non-ID replication server and what is the usage of that? So by default, when you install replication, so that is primary and that is ID server. When you need to create the routing, that time you need to have a non-ID server, and that ID server's ID will be used when you define non-ID server, right? So this is mainly used for routing. And when you have PRS and SRS, which means like primary replication server and then you have secondary replication server, that time you need to have this ID server usage. So there will be two replication installation. First will be ID server and second will be non-ID server. So by default, when you install replication, the ID server gets installed, right? So this is something a bit tricky question to check your or to assess your skill about replication, right? So this was third question. Now let's move to the fourth question. Now you have been given access to a replication server only. Now how will you tell what is the type of replication, what is the source, what is the target, and whether any routing has been defined or no? So you have access to replication server, right? So first thing, you can find out about the logical status, admin logical status. So that will give you details whether it's a warm standby. If it is warm standby, so you can find out that this is a warm standby. Now, as I mentioned in the first question, now you can find out rs_help db rep from the RSST server. You can do connect and it will go to RSST server from the replication server. That will give you detail about the replication definition. If it is MSA, and you can run the command rs_help db sub, that will give you detail of subscription, right? Now in case of table level, you have to do rs_help rep and rs_help sub, right? So based on all this information, you can figure out whether it's a MSA, MSA, warm standby or table level. And when you have all this detail, like you have like primary server defined or secondary based on replication definition and subscription definition, you can figure out the primary and secondary easily. And also you can find out the RS_database database, I mean that I have given in the document. Now for the routing, you can run the command rs_help route, and that will give you whether any routing has been defined or no. So this should be good enough. Now let's move to the next question. Now this is a little bit tricky question. So here there is replication defined already from A to B via X replication server. Now you have to extend the replication to C, which means you already have replication from A to B. Now there is another server C where you need to extend the replication. But I am not saying to have replication from A to C directly. Anything which is coming to B from A server should also go to C server. That also does not mean that any DML which is happening on the B should go to C, right? So when you have one primary, so you already have a replication definition created on that server. What you need to do is you need to create the connection on the rep server for C server, and you need to create the subscription to C server, right? This will do. That is one part of it. And second part is you also need to ensure that only main transactions is coming to B should go to C, not the actual transaction. So you need to enable send main transactions to true on the B server on the ASC side, right? So this way you can figure out that. So this is the answer of that. So this, I mean, I have asked many people in the interview and most of them have not been able to answer. So you should understand the question and then you can answer this, right? Now, can you set up replication on a database when trunk logon checkpoint is enabled? So trunk logon checkpoint is nothing but a DB option. So I am asking, can you can you have a database where DB option trunk logon checkpoint is enabled? Can you have this part of replication? Yes, you can very much have, because before checkpoint gets triggered, replication transaction is already there in the replication, right? It is already, I mean, before issuing checkpoint, it will be there, which will be marked for replication. So you can very much have it. Only thing you need to be little bit careful about when you are setting the dump marker and taking the backup, right? At that time you should not do any change of DB option, because when you take the backup, there is possibility that the dump marker may get moved and then you may not have proper secondary server. I mean, when you load the dump, that may not really able to catch up the dump marker. We will have one question for dump marker also, so I will cover more in that. But while you are taking backup, when you are resyncing the database from primary to secondary, you should not take log backup and you should not change DB option. Otherwise, if it is already enabled or you have enabled it afterwards, there is no concern or there is no issue on the replication. Okay. Now, if there are thousands of duplicate transactions, how to skip them all without missing any legitimate transaction? So now, when you have 1000, that means it is done by mistake by application team or by anyone. So first and foremost, the easiest thing will be to delete the transaction which has been there on the primary. So delete them from the secondary. So anything which is coming from primary, it will flow through without any issues. That's the easiest thing to do. I mean, this is not a wise thing to do, to skip them all. I mean, it's not possible to skip. You have thousands, you cannot keep on skip them, resume this, skip, tran and all. That is not something which is feasible, right? Second option could be you define an error class and change the replication definition and associate that error class which will be having that error code defined. So that way you can, that is a solution, but that you have to change the replication definition and you have to restart that connection, right? That is one thing. That is the most ideal solution, but the first one is the easy one and you can do that. Now third thing will be, you have to do auto correction. I mean, this is something which I would not suggest to do, but you can do that. That's an option for answering a question in the interview. Yes, you can do that. So auto correction. So what you can do is, instead of delete, you can convert that to insert. I mean, instead of insert, you do delete and insert. That is one thing you can do. Or you can also do insert to none. So even that is possible, because when you do insert to none, so all the insert which has been duplicated, that will not be inserted on the secondary server, right? Now there is one more option. If it has been established that the few of them have been skipped already and few legitimate transactions have been missed out in the course of fixing this duplicate issue, then you should do resync. But then resync is the last option and should not be tried. If it is very easy to do, now there are many clients where I have seen resync is not an option, because there are multiple things which is there in the replication definition, and sometimes page size will be different between primary and secondary. So that is not an option, but that is the last option, and that could be also given a try when nothing else works. But the error class is the one which will definitely work, right? Okay, now we already covered dump marker, but let's see what is the question here. So what is the meaning of dump marker? When do you use it and why? So if you ask me why do you use it, so this is used when you want to resync data from primary to secondary without any downtime. Because when you define a dump marker, so in case of MSA or WStandBy, when you create the connection, okay, then you use dump marker. that time the connection will go down at the replication server, and then with the, it will also write in the primary server error log that placing dump marker. Then you take backup on the primary, move it to secondary, load it, and then resume connection. So, we will start applying transaction from the last dump marker which has been placed on the dump, right. That is for warm standby. For MSA, this will be when you use dump marker and when you take the backup on the primary. So, that time the thread will go down at the replication server, and then once you load it, then you can resume the connection. So, this is used for resyncing data from primary to secondary without any downtime. That is the primary use of it, and it also helps in establishing the transaction log from the point up to which you have taken the backup. So, until then it is already there in the dump, but from that point it will start applying the transaction to the secondary side. That is the use of dump marker. Meaning is very clear because it is placing a marker in the dump. All right. Okay, what is the usage of SP_rep to standby? So, as the name suggests, so replication to standby. So, this is very much used and it has to be used. There are two options to that. One is all, one is none. So, all means everything which is there, it will be replicated, and none when you do not want to replicate anything from the primary to secondary. So, this is the one. So, this is very much used when you create a replication definition, and when you have replication anything, any type, it will be used. Now, what is the difference in creating replication subscription with or without materialization? So, materialization is something which I would suggest not to use it, but for the theory purpose you should know the meaning of it. So, without materialization means you have you already have objects created on the secondary and even data is already available there. That is without materialization. With materialization, you still need to have objects created on the secondary. However, data population will happen through when you create the subscription. This is applicable for table level replication, right? And when you do with materialization, that time it will do the validation, okay, and then it will start applying data. That's theoretical, doesn't work. We have tried it at 2-3 clients and it was a nightmare. So, I would suggest not to use materialization, rather use BCP method for the, if there is different page size and you have multiple complexes in the primary and secondary, you can't do dump and load, then you should better to use, you should use BCP out and BCP in there. That is the most robust thing and that definitely works. Okay. How to check validity of subscription defined at replication server? So, this is pretty straightforward. So, when you have the command to create subscription, instead of create, just use check and the same thing, it will give you whether subscription is valid or no. You can also use rs_help db sub, that will also give you detail of that, or rs_help sub in case of table level replication. So, you can use that. Major difference between warm standby and MSA, I think I have already covered that, but just to reiterate. So, warm standby is 1-to-1 mapping, MSA as name suggests, it has 1-to multiple mapping, right. In the case of warm standby, you cannot have inbound and outbound queue. There is only active only logical connection. Whereas in case of MSA, you have replication definition, replication subscription, right? And you have inbound and outbound queue. In MSA, you can define routing. Whereas in case of warm standby, you cannot define routing. And in MSA, you can do active switch. Whereas in MSA, it's not possible. So these are the major differences in warm standby and MSA. What is RS_ticket and how to use it? So basically RS_ticket is used to find out latency, or I should say to find out where is the bottleneck in terms of performance from primary to secondary. So this is used more when you have PRS and SRS, like primary replication server, secondary replication server. So you need to figure out where is the point where it is taking longer than it should take when you have latency there between primary and secondary, right. So this is basically a counter, and you can find out the history, and there are certain parameters that you have to pass out, and then you can find the details of that. So RS_ticket, as name suggests, is basically nothing but a ticket which sends the from primary to secondary, and at each level, you can figure out how much is the elapsed time, right? Few parameters which can improve performance of replication server. So first is memory limit. So that is one thing that you can increase, and that will allocate more memory to your replication server. Then you have SQT cache size. Then you have you have like block size, and few more parameters are there. But as I mentioned in the previous question, you have to have RS_ticket to figure out where is the actual problem, and then based on that you can you can determine which has to be really tuned, right? So there are few parameters which you can easily find out, but doing the change, will it help you in improving performance? You need to find that out, right? So this is like two levels of parameters are there. One is at DSI level and one is at the global level. So both of the things are applicable. What is the impact of abort run on log full DB option for any database which is being replicated? So as the name suggests, so this is like DB option. So it gets triggered when the log is completely full, and then it cannot handle that. So if the database is part of replication, then the log will be aborted. And as you can understand, when the log is aborted, that means replication will not really work properly. So before that, you will already have multiple alerts from replication server, from the primary side, from multiple if you have monitoring tool, and also everything will give you alert that this is about to hit the threshold. Like you already you can have threshold defined for database on the log segment. So all these things, so this doesn't really happen. However, for theory purpose, if it happens, then you need to resync the database from primary to secondary. That is the answer. Now, if thread is down due to duplicate, so this is a bonus question. So if thread is down due to duplicate key issue, how do you get details of that transaction? So this is sysadmin log first run, and then data server name and the database name. This command you can get from the replication server itself. It will be written in the error log. Okay, so you can run the command. So what does that do is it logs the transaction into the exception log. So you have this command which has to be run on the replication server. Then you go to RSST, and then you run the command rs_help exception. Then take the largest number from there, and then run the command rs_help exception. Suppose the largest number is 1576. So rs_help exception 1576, v. That will take some time depending on how many transactions are there in the exception log, and then that will give you the complete details of the transaction. So this was the bonus question. There is one more question which I am not going to cover here. However, I have written the answer of this in my PDF. So if you can buy that, you will have this detail as well. So this is all, and as I mentioned, so if you have all these answers and you know the concept of all these things, you can clear any interview for Sybase replication. So I hope this was helpful, and please do like my channel and do comment and subscribe, and to support me. So I will be putting all this question answer in a PDF for sale on a nominal price. So please buy them, and if you like, or if you have any comment on that also, even that you can comment. So maybe I can incorporate them, and I can make it better. So thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great day. Thank you.